Today in Capechi's Corner, we're going to solve one-step equations. So a couple of vocabulary words to start. When we're solving an equation, we're making a variable equal to a number. For example, 5 is equal to x, m is equal to -2, and the solution is the answer. When we see the word equivalent, remember that means equal. Okay, here's some key concepts. To solve a linear equation, you're going to isolate the variable, meaning get the variable by itself on one side by doing the inverse, or sometimes people say the opposite operation. You must make sure that you keep the equation balanced by performing the same operation on both sides. So in this case, we added c, right? Addition, you add the c to both sides to keep it balanced. And here we multiply both sides by c to keep it balanced. Subtraction, same thing, and division, same thing. We basically you hear teachers say a lot, whatever you do to the one side of the equation, you have to do to the other. All right, so let's look at example 1. Solve each equation. Now, I usually tell my students to draw kind of a wall at that equal sign. So I want to get that g by itself. So I have a -25, so I have to do the opposite operation and add 25 to both sides. The reason we do that is -25 plus 25 zeroes out. That's what we want. We want that equal to 0, so we only have the variable on one side. So that gives me that gives me g is equal to 138. Okay, let's look at number 2. Same thing, there's my wall. I'm going to subtract 27 to both sides, and I have k is equal to +3. Number 3, I'm dividing right now. So in order to get rid of that division, my denominator, I'm going to multiply both sides by 7. And I have -294 is equal to y. And in number 3, we're multiplying. So we could do one of two things. I can multiply by 8 and then divide by 3, right? Doing the opposite operation. But the easiest way is really just to take care of that. You can multiply by the reciprocal, which you've done a lot in other classes. So the reciprocal of 3/8 is 8/3. Whatever I do to one side, I do the other side. This will all simplify, which is why we do the reciprocal. And then when I multiply that across, I get, if I just want to do it in my head, I get 72/12. That simplifies to 6, or you can simplify before you multiply. Okay, let's move on here. Here's some problems that we're going to see here and there. It's just kind of working with your knowledge and your math concept, right? Like how can we create what they're asking for? So it says fill in the boxes using digits -9 to 9, right? Only one digit numbers, only one time each to form an equation. And again, there's going to be stipulations, different stipulations. This time it's saying let x equal to 5. So in the end, if I want x to equal to 5, I have to come up with numbers in each of these spots that are going to make that true. So that's a little tricky. Where do I start? I don't know. Let's just, again, I always say to my students, start somewhere, do something versus nothing. Okay. So let's just say I'm going to start with what it equals to. I'm just going to happen to pick the number 4. So what number do I have to put here in order to get a 5 on the right-hand side? Okay, like let's just see what happens. If I put a 2 there, I would add 2 to both sides, and that would give me a 6. So that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna erase that and go back. I'm like, okay, I see what I need to do now. I just kind of filled it in, see what happens. 4 is 1 away from 5. So because this is a negative, I know I just need to add 1 to both sides, and that will give me a 5. So again, that's the values I'm going to use. I can check it just to make sure. 5 is my x value. That's what I was told to have. 5 minus 1 gives me 4. That's true. So I'm all set. It says fill in the boxes again using digits -9 to 9 only once. So this time, to form my equation with the value of x is equal to -1. So I need to come up with something on either side of this equation to make that work. Now again, sometimes it's just hard to get started. I'm going to try to stay away from that fractions at first. And I'm just going to make this over here. I'm going to make this a 7. Okay, so then kind of the question is, what times -1 is going to give me the 7? Okay, so something times -1, right? That's my x, is going to equal to 7. So if you can't do that in your head, you can actually even divide that, right? Get that question mark by itself, right? I need something. That fraction has to equal -7. So what I'm going to do is because I can't use +7 because I already used 7 there. So I'm going to make that -7 on the top. And I'm going to make that 1 on the bottom, right? So doesn't that give me -7x? Sorry, not -7x, just -7. My x is times -1, right? That's the value for x is equal to 7. So that looks good. All right, moving on to a word problem. The Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building are two of the tallest in New York City. The Empire State Building is 204 feet taller than the Chrysler Building. Okay, so the Empire State Building is taller. Okay, if the Empire State Building is 1,200 feet tall, write and solve an equation to find the height of the Chrysler Building. Okay, so we have the Chrysler Building plus 204, right? Because that's what we need to add to it to get to the Empire State Building. Okay. Now they tell us that the Empire State Building is 1,250. So I kind of substitute that in. Now let's see what my answer is because I do have a two-part question. C plus 204. So I'm going to get rid of A and C. Now when I narrow it down to two, I'd like to see what's the same and what's the difference. So my equations are the same. Just my end game here, the actual height of the Chrysler Building is different. So I just need to do that. So I'm going to subtract 204. And I end up with C, or the Chrysler Building, is equal to 1,046 feet, which is letter A. All right, let's take a look at our last one. On average, a male bulldog weighs 15 pounds less than a male golden retriever. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of write a couple things. The bulldog is 15 pounds less than golden retriever. All right. If the average bulldog, again, male bulldog, weighs 50 pounds, write and solve an equation to find the average weight of the golden retriever. So remember, the golden retriever is bigger, is heavier than the male bulldog. So I know that I'm going to take that 50 and I know I'm going to have to add something to it, right? So if I need to come up with equation, I'm going to add weight to get to that. So if I come up with equation of variable, I can say the golden retriever, right, minus 15 degrees. That's going to give me the bulldog. Right? Golden retriever, because I need to subtract because it is going to be less, or I can add to the bulldog. Either way is okay. So in this case, I know that the average bulldog is 50 pounds. So I add 15 to both sides, and that gives me that the golden retriever is 65 pounds. That's the average. Right? That's it. Okay, thanks so much for stopping by today. You have a great day.